Inside the Arena is presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook.
Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko Tamurian and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris Daniels.
Episode number 72. 72. It's the Mariners have had more wins, it seems like, in the last week or two than 72.
That's the number of losses they had in 2025, 90 and 72. Of course, that's regular season record, so it's all symmetrical as they make this big-time run in the postseason. How special is this?
Symmetry. It's been a fun month and a half, hasn't it, Niko?
It has, and as we said on last week's show, I hope I can keep, as much as I love being in the studio with you all and producer Bill, it's the idea that I can keep being away from the studio because it means the Mariners are doing something good, and hopefully that means from the World Series next week. We're not going to get ahead of things, but yeah, that's kind of how we're feeling at the moment.
Well, it's been a historic run. There's just been so much baseball to cover. We also have a ton to cover inside the arena, outside the lines, outside the field, outside the pitch, outside the ice, whatever you want to say. Things going on away from the field, and there's a lot. Lane Lambert, the head coach of your Seattle Kraken, is on the show. You had a great conversation with him.
Yeah, I certainly, from day one, it's kind of cool. The day he was hired, I sat down with him, so it was great to sit down with him as the new season gets underway here a few games in and just kind of see the growth that was there and see how his leadership style, this is what really stood out to me, his leadership style is different from the previous two Kraken head coaches, Dave Hackstall and Dan Bylsma. Not that it means anything wrong with those guys, it's just different, and maybe it leads to different results for the hometown hockey team this year.
And we had the Etsy Witch, but now we have a new phenomenon with the Mariners. That's also in the show this week.
We have the Etsy Witch, and then we still have Rick Rizz's Cheetos before every game, and I personally like that better than the Etsy Witch, I'm not going to lie to you, because like Cheetos we can all rally behind. But now it is Humpy the Salmon, and we'll get to that in a little while, but we go behind the scenes as we do on Inside the Arena as the thought process, how that decision was made to have a second running of the Salmon and have history made with that particular run.
So just think about this show. Lane Lambert, Tyler Thompson talking about Humpy, and Beth Knox from the Seattle Sports Commission going to stop by. We've got a lot to talk about, but we always like to start, don't we, Niko, with what's good, what's bad, off the ice, off the court, off the field of play. It's Four Corners. There we go. We hit the right button this time. Niko, besides the obvious, what's good this week?
Well, here's what I want to talk about from that standpoint is one weekend. And obviously all of these teams are continuing to play, but one weekend that really summarizes about as good as it gets in Seattle sports. Not the best, because we could be talking about that as weeks go on and better things happen. But I want to talk about last weekend in particular, where you had UW football at the same time on that Friday night, 38-19 over Rutgers. The same time the Mariners were beating Detroit in Game 5 of the divisional series. Then the next day, you obviously have the Sounders winning and the Kraken beating Vegas in overtime, their first 2-0 start at that point in time in franchise history. And then, of course, on Sunday, you got the Seahawks winning in the morning out in Jacksonville, and the Mariners taking Game 1 on incredibly short rest against the Blue Jays and the CS. Like, the stakes can be higher, but the idea that all of our teams were playing in big games, Sounders and RSL was a huge matchup as we get closer to those playoffs, and that's another playoff run that could be occurring in the very near future. But the fact that they were all in action and they all resulted in Seattle wins is pretty uncanny. I mean, the idea that you can have 5-6 games and all our local teams win, that's pretty impossible sometimes to think about. But we had it, and it doesn't get any more positive than that.
And a lot of people were learning how to use two screens at the same time on
exactly.
Some of those days as well. Hey, I want to give a shout out, and this is a bit of good news and bad news, is Lou Barnes, the captain of the Seattle Reign, is hanging up the spikes. Her last regular season game is this year. She is an OG, an original gangster, so to speak, of the Reign, the NWSL team, 13 years in Seattle, 250 games, 238 games she started, over 20,000 minutes on the pitch, the 2016 Defender of the Year, been part of 3 teams that have won Shields. She has been a part of this community. I've had the honor of talking with her a couple of times away from the pitch, a standout individual who has represented the Reign franchise so well through multiple ownership groups. She has been here the entire time, somebody actively involved in the community. She calls this place home, and she is hanging up the spikes after a glorious career with the Seattle Reign.
Yeah. How could you? I mean, listen, it's a franchise that has had a ton of success over the years. They're so fun to watch. They've helped really shape the fabric of that sport in our community. And so you have to start, there, and obviously Megan as well, as people that have really transcended the game. And so it's really special. It's sad, but it's special that this kind of moment lets you reflect in that way.
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching her play over the years. Niko, what don't you like this week?
Well, and I know you'll talk about something similar in a moment probably, but the idea that another NBA season is underway and we don't feel any closer, right? Like the stuff that happened this summer. I know that based on everything, we heard in our separate circles, based on everything, context clues, everything that was even being said by the commissioner, Adam Silver, that it was like, okay, we're probably, by the time this new NBA season starts, we're going to be hearing something. It doesn't mean it would be definitive, but we'd be hearing something. And now it feels like it might be a little further than it's been in recent years. So it's just one of those, I'm sure it'll be a great season. I'm sure it'll be fun, as the NBA is, but it's one of those reminders. It's like, oh, I still think it'll happen, as I know you do as well. It just might be a little bit longer of a wait. What's longer when you've already waited almost 20 years, I suppose. But it just makes you a little sad that it's like, oh, here's this new season, and we don't necessarily feel as positive about expansion as we did last time around when the NBA opened in the fall of 24, and they had that cool game, the preseason matchup here. So it certainly, listen, keep the hope. It's going to happen, in my opinion, at some point. It's just not maybe in the next year or two. It's maybe a few years down the line.
Yeah, no exhibition game this year at Climate Pledge Arena. I think that's taken a little air out of the balloon, not having that going into the season. And yeah, at the start of the last two seasons, I think people were thinking that something was about to be announced. Again, the pause button hit, it appears, by the NBA as they deal with all sorts of other stuff that we can talk about more in a second. I just wanted to add to kind of, circle around the bases like Cal Raleigh over the last couple of weeks. What is bad this week is happening away from the field, and it's this idea that private capital is getting involved in college sports. We thought the NCAA lost it 5 years ago. There appears to be a deal on the verge of completion to put private capital into the Big Ten Conference. And potentially that could help out the University of Washington. But there is reporting this week, Front Office Sports and ESPN, that USC and Michigan leaders on their board are opposing the Big Ten's private capital proposal. And I encourage you to dive deeper on Front Office Sports or ESPN. But the Big Ten is seeking unanimous approval for this deal, a $2.4 billion private capital deal that would involve a California pension fund. Just saying that out loud when you're talking about NCAA college athletics seems weird. But Michigan and USC apparently in strong opposition to this. And if this were to happen, in short, the Big Ten would spin off its assets, including its media rights, into a separate entity called Big Ten Enterprises, according to Front Office Sports. And then a California pension fund would pay $2.4 billion, offering at least $100 million to each Big Ten program in a payout in exchange for an equity stake in Big Ten Enterprises. How this helps a kid get through school, I don't know. But the deal would also include a grant of rights extension until 2046 to keep the league together. Who knows what college sports looks like that at that point in time. The source confirmed that UC Investments, this is according to Front Office Sports, in the pension fund would offer that deal. There's a question here, and the reason why there's opposition, USC officials are unhappy with the existence of a tiered structure, meaning that schools like USC and Washington would get less money out of that deal. USC and Oregon would be in a second tier, receive less than, say, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, which would each receive $190 million. I mean, this is just nuts, Niko. Nuts.
How do you even keep score nowadays? I mean, I've researched this story, and it's something that I considered putting in the nightly sportscast on KOMO News, and I'm like, how do I even explain this in the short amount of time that you have on live TV to somebody that, if you're talking about a general news viewer, probably isn't a diehard Big Ten fan and doesn't. it's just gotten so convoluted, and it's not just this, obviously, it's over the last few years. Like, that's my point. How do you even keep score anymore? It's like, I hear everything you said, and I've done my own reading, and I'm like, what else is new? Like, what else is next? And here's the thing: you talk about a grant of rights; those things are supposed to be ironclad. Yet over in the ACC, you had Clemson and Florida State, and I think a couple other schools. Don't quote me on the other schools' part, but all trying to find a way out of it. And I think they did get it like made to be sooner. So all these things are meant to be broken anyway. So it's like security for how long, and is it really security? Is it just going to further that gap between the Ohio States and Michigans and the UWs and everybody else? So it's a little silly at this point. I mean, it's all about money. And not that, like, listen, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, because that's what pro sports have been. But that's the idea. The college sports were different. They weren't. There was money involved, of course, but it was about that love of the game. It was about school pride. It was about this, that, and the other thing. Now it's like your favorite school has a new quarterback every year, and it's so much more about this part of it than anything else. And if you're not one of like the top 16 schools, you're eventually just going to be further lower and lower. Even if you're a powerful school in tradition, it's just going to, the gap is continuing to widen. And that, to me, that's all that this is, continuing to widen the gap between the absolute blue bloods and even the pretty darn good programs.
And what's not to say Washington in 5 years says, hey, we don't like the travel for our volleyball team or our softball team and want to do something different and not be part of Big Ten athletics across all sports. Signing up for another 20 years with all this money at stake, it's interesting to see if that does get blocked by USC and Michigan. Hey, we've got so much in the show. We should probably move along to the Supersonic Minute, which I think, Niko, you already covered for the most part, and we can cover it in 15 seconds. Nothing new to report. It looks like we're going to go through another NBA season without a whole lot of movement as the NBA continues to be focused on expansion in Europe by 27 or 28. But we will keep an eye on that and update you every week here on this broadcast/podcast. And this week, we can talk about the team that is playing at Climate Pledge Arena, Niko.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the Kraken. Certainly, this is a new chapter, new head coach. They've made these changes once again. And I think there's reason to believe it could be different. Now, listen, early season results, as different as they've been from recent years, the first 2-0 start, is one thing. But it's a whole nother to hear what Lane Lambert has to say, his approach, the kind of guy he is. Doesn't mean the other guys weren't good guys, but just listen to him in this interview, as we'll play for you in just a minute. And you'll kind of see the difference if you've watched all those sound bites and clips, so to speak, over the years. I like his vision. I like that he's grounded. I like what he has to offer. Let's bring in that interview from Lane Lambert right after this.
Luxury has arrived at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. The hotel is officially open. Book now for an unforgettable experience. Enjoy sweeping cascade views, a new sports bar, and play your favorite games. Visit snowcasino.com for details. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
We have to start with just the idea of beginning the opener with a win like that and winning the way you all did. Setting the tone the right way, right? Like how cool is that part of it to kind of get this thing started the right way?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously you always want to win your opener, and I thought our guys did a good job. I think these home openers are difficult sometimes for the home team with everything that's going on, behind the scenes and pre-game and all that. And I thought our first period was a little indicative of that, but after we settled in and kind of found our legs and whatnot, I thought we played a much better game, and certainly our third period was our best period.
Absolutely, and that's something that kind of stands out to me. It's one game. I don't want to make it into it's one of 82, but the idea that you guys did finish strong and were kind of relentless that whole way and got it done when you needed to. I don't want to say what does that say about a team in one game, but those are the kind of characteristics that you want to see out of the guys.
Well, you like to build off of those types of things, and what I liked, and this doesn't mean that when we have the lead that we're going to do this all the time. We certainly strive to do this all the time. Is I like the way that we stayed on our toes and we were aggressive, and we continued when we were up by 2 goals. We continued to push north and attack, and we had many more chances to make it 4 and 5-1. But that's the formula that you need.
Yeah, certainly it's been building, right, since you came aboard a few months ago, kind of building to this moment, and builds to games and moments beyond that. What was the journey like and kind of setting the tone, setting your identity that you want this team to have, and then seeing it kind of get into the regular season now?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, obviously training camp was tough, and I think you're still every day you're still kind of working on your tone, your identity. It's ever flowing. There's things that are ever changing type in these situations, and it takes some time certainly to be really 100% playing exactly the way we want to be. But certainly when you can have some success doing certain things that you want to do as a team, it certainly helps drive home that message.
In that time when you're building, whether it was ahead of training camp or actually probably more so in training camp, was there one thing that you were trying to really kind of set as an identity of the team, or something that you're really trying to hammer home with these guys to kind of set the stage for everything else?
Yeah, well, you know what? First and foremost, it's just work. It's consistent work. 60-minute game or 65 if it's overtime, whatever it takes, to be prepared to work. And, even if you look at last night, it wasn't that we didn't come out and we were, we were trying. We were just making some mistakes. But the key is that we were working. And, and again, we talk about defending and defense leads to good offense, and I thought we had some good transition situations last night, certainly in the back half of the game.
And how do you feel, what has that transition been like? How do you feel like the guys have adapted to change a next chapter, whatever word you want to use for that?
Yeah, I think they've done a great job of it. At the end of the day, they're the ones that have to take ownership of it, and that's the goal. That's you give them the direction, you put down the blueprint, and then it manifests itself from there. And I think they've done a really good job of doing the things that we've talked about as a group, and trying to play the way we want to play as a group, because we're all in this together. It's not necessarily me telling them, hey, you have to do this. It's we're all doing it together because it's the way we're going to have success.
You have a really neat dynamic with this team where you've got some vets that have seen a lot in their careers, and we've seen this opening night roster. There's a lot of young guys that have so much potential and are going to find their way. What is that dynamic like, and how cool is it to kind of see those vets help those guys along?
Well, they have to, and we have, in the limited time I've been here, we have good people, good veteran people, that can help push these guys along, help mentor them. From that standpoint, there's little details and little things in the game that veteran players know that maybe a younger player doesn't quite know yet. And it's invaluable to have your teammate, help you out with those things.
We talk about some of those young guys that made the roster out of camp. What does that say about their effort? I mean, they're going to have their debut at some point, and yet they've worked hard on a very good roster and have carved that role that they're going to have an opportunity with you moving forward.
Yeah, we're excited about our youth. We're excited about the youth in Coachella Valley as well as an organization. So. It says a lot. It says a lot about the organization and in terms of where we're heading. And we just have to make sure that we continue to progress as a team and help these young guys continue progressing as players and individuals within the team concept.
A season like hockey, 82 games, it's a marathon, all these different things you want to do. What is the hardest part as a head coach of keeping these guys kind of on that same mission night in, night out, when it's really difficult to do that, obviously, with the length of the season? What's the toughest challenge in that regard?
It's funny. It's a great question. As you're asking the question, I sit there and think the toughest. I don't have an answer. Everything's tough. Mm-hmm. Everything's tough. And, I think more or less for me, it's the understanding from the group that every day is about getting better. Whether you win a game or you don't win a game, there's times when if you win 2 or 3 games, you think, you can take a little breather. No, you can't. You just have to continue to progress and get better every day, regardless of whether you're winning hockey games or losing hockey games, and that's the biggest thing for me.
Last time you and I sat down like this was the day they had your introduction press conference. In the months since then, what has it been like being here in Seattle, kind of constructing what this year may look like, the reception, everything? I'm sure it's light years different from that day till now.
Yeah, just obviously, know my way around a little bit better, a little more comfortable, know people within the organization, a lot of new faces and everything like that. So that's fun. Coming in when you don't really know anybody, it's a challenge. You just you got to get yourself into a situation where you feel comfortable. The city of Seattle is amazing. We feel like we hit a home run in the area that we're living in. It's just a beautiful city all the way around. So, with that, you look at everything that's going on in Seattle right now with the baseball team and the football team, and then our team, and our fans came out and supported us amazingly last night. So, it's obviously, as I'm seeing it, certainly in the first little while here, it's obviously a great sports town.
That was actually exactly my next question. The fact that the Mariners are in this run that's got a fever going around the town, and of course, then your place was packed. It was loud. What does that say about Kraken fans?
Well, I love it, and I think I said it at the introductory press conference. Maybe is that I couldn't wait to get behind the bench, the home bench, because I had felt the energy that the fans had given the home team when I was on the visiting bench, and so finally that came to fruition last night, and I thought the fans were fantastic. And it's really cool that the Mariners players as well, they were at an exhibition game, and they were super supportive of us as we are of them, and so we're looking forward to watching them and hopefully going into a deep run.
That's just it too. The guys obviously know the stakes and everything, but they can kind of see what's happening to this town right now. And certainly we saw it in 23. This town was just as euphoric with the first Kraken playoff bid. Can you almost look at that again? It doesn't change the motivation, I understand. That's always the goal. But can you kind of look at that and be like, hey, we can maybe try and make this happen in our own way in a few months?
Well, you would certainly like to do that, but the only way you can make that happen is just taking it day by day and worrying about the process and not focusing on the end result. If you focus on the process, you have a better chance of that end result coming to fruition.
Are the baseball playoff mustaches anything like the hockey beards we see or anything like that?
Yeah, I guess maybe they are. Yeah, they are. But it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch playoff baseball, that's for sure, and certainly we're rooting for those guys.
All right, Lane Lambert, Seattle Kraken off to a great start, Niko. And also, I think this is such a fun story, watching this all year long with the salmon running around the bases, the fish run, whatever you want to call it. There's a formal name for that, right, Niko?
It is the salmon run, yeah, and I think that it's taken on a life of its own, and certainly it's been a lot of fun. It happens in the middle of the third inning for the Mariners. But there's one thing that the Mariners had not done until recently, and that was Humpy the salmon, letting him win. 165 races, 0-165. Silver, Sockeye, King had all won. But our buddy Humpy didn't win. And so finally, Game 5 of the American League Divisional Series, they'd already done it in the third inning. Silver won, I believe. But then it got into extra innings, and then extra innings upon extra innings. It got into the 15th, and Tyler Thompson, director of entertainment for the Mariners, recognized that the crowd needed a little bit of a bolt. Like, it was still a great playoff atmosphere, but they were getting a little tired, like everybody was. So they made the decision that would change the course, maybe of Mariner history, but certainly of the history of this event, and the effect that it had, not just on the fans, but even the Mariner players. There's a video that the M's posted on social media where the players are like rooting, and they all jump in the dugout when they see Humpy win. Now, lo and behold, within 5 minutes of that occurring, Jorge Polanco hit the game winner to drive them to the ALCS. But I had to talk about this decision. I had to understand what was behind it. So here's my chat with Tyler Thompson, director of entertainment with the Mariners.
First of all, the salmon run is something that people love every night. If you're as much as of the inside baseball, pun intended, you're allowed to give me, take me through the conversation, the idea of running that again in the 15th inning, and the idea of allowing Humpy to win to maybe give something of a spark to the crowd.
Yeah, well, my job is to entertain our fans and keep them engaged and keep them in games like a postseason game loud and have an impact on the outcome of the game ultimately. How do we keep our fans into it? And once we get past our 9 innings of baseball, there's not really a blueprint. We come in every game with a 30 to 40 minute pregame show of things that we want to do to entertain our fans, inform our fans. But, and then, 18 individual inning breaks at the middle of the first, the end of the first, the middle of the second, the end of the second, and so on. Once we hit extra innings, there's not really a blueprint. So especially as it's, going on, and we're trying to run rally clips, and how do we keep our fans excited and introducing each of our pitchers that are coming in, there's not, a go-to thing to do in the 13th inning or whatever. So we were in the middle of the 14th inning and we were doing the 7th inning stretch again. Every 7 innings, we got to tell our fans to get up and sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." And we just noticed a shift in our ballpark. People felt like they were engaging again. They were up, they were singing. I thought to myself, what can we do now to try to keep our fans engaged with something we could bring back? So I consulted with a couple people on my team. I said, "Do you think we could pull together another salmon run?" And they said, "Yeah, I think we could do that." I said, "All right, let's shoot for the middle of the 16th inning." And it wasn't an out later, and I got a text from Callie Rutherford on our team and Nick Seibot's on our team. They said, "We think we can pull off the middle of the 15th." I said, "All right, let's do it." Hoping, maybe there was a little magic. We could run our fish out again. And that's exactly what happened. We ran him out, and lo and behold, something came over Humpy, and he overcame over 165 losses to that point to win his first career race.
And the idea that Humpy wins on what ended up being such an historic night, punching the first ALCS ticket in 24 years, like meant to be, right?
Yeah, it feels like it was meant to be. And people ask me all the time, when is Humpy going to win? How can we get Humpy to win? And, my response is always, it's an honest race. We throw the fish out there every night. They run the race. Humpy just hasn't had his night. And until then, he's going to continue to be the people's champion. And when he has his moment, it's going to be, as heroic as any. It feels like that one win for Humpy outweighs, 40, 50, 60 wins from our other fish over the last couple seasons.
And do you think, like, when you guys were making that decision to have this end the drought, so to speak, was it part of it given the kind of the game that we were in at that moment? Was like, what was part of the consideration? Was it, the playoff atmosphere, whatever it might have been?
Yeah, we just knew that our crowd needed a spark at that point. Like, what's something that could change, the landscape of the ballpark and re-engage our crowd? And we thought, our fans love the salmon run. We should run them back out there and see what happens. And again, Humpy, just something came over him, a spark of brilliance and a performance like we had never seen from him. And he won the race and then went out and partied in the pen with everybody that was out there and was jumping up and down and celebrating after base hits.
What does it mean to you when, okay, Humpy wins, then we look at the dugout and the players are going nuts. And then lo and behold, the next time they see the field after it, they win the game.
It's unbelievable. At spring training, we asked our players, if they have a favorite salmon, who's your favorite salmon, who's your favorite salmon? And most of them could really only name Humpy. There was a few that knew a few of the fish, or some of them could name all of them, but the majority of them only knew Humpy. So I think people were tuned in with the idea that Humpy hadn't quite got his first win yet. And I think that was something that, created some sort of conversation around the salmon run. And now,
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I'm so sorry. But what does it mean to you that, like, you could, anybody can take a direct and tangible look at you guys making the call at this historic salmon run, and it leads to a Mariners win because they probably needed a jolt too.
Like I said, my job is to try to make an impact on the game in some way by trying to get our fans into it. And finding that, we threw a salmon run out there in the 15th inning, Humpy happened to win, and then people are correlating that with the Mariners' victory. It means a lot. And the salmon run means a lot to a lot of us. It took a lot of work. It was years of planning, trying to come up with what's the concept of the mascot race, what are our characters like, what's their development like over the next few years, and seeing Humpy's first win at such an historic time. And then, fans are likening or correlating Humpy's win to, giving the Mariners that spark in the middle of the 15th inning. It's pretty validating from a game entertainment standpoint and just trying to create, memorable moments for our fans. It actually means a lot. Humpy is one of my sweet babies. I love him so much, and his inner tube and his life vest and his floaties. So it's cool that he finally gets to have, his heroic moment.
Oh my God. We loved it too. So since then, he was at the Kraken game, if I'm not mistaken. He's out there with Rick Riz putting the banner on the thing. Like the aftermath and how happy people are, not just with the team advancing, but with Humpy. How cool is that?
Humpy's world tour has begun. Truly, he, like you said, he raised the Trident following the win on Friday. He raised it again last night. He was a superstar at our watch party over at Victory Hall. He showed up with a big gold chain and a winner's sash and a trophy. And yeah, like you said, he got to hoist the colors at the Kraken game. So people are taking notice of Humpy's heroic win, and they're excited to celebrate with him. And hopefully it means a whole lot more wins for Humpy in the future.
And this can lead to something like, obviously everybody already loved Humpy, but this can be something that goes on, and whether it's this run, whether it's the future, whatever it might be, like, this can be like a spark for something, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah, I think Humpy's kind of, solidified himself in Mariners lore now. I mean, I think that years from now, people will remember the night that Humpy got his first win, and then just a couple pitches later, Jorge Polanco walked it off in the 15th for a historic win for the Mariners to advance to the ALCS.
Tyler, is there anything, this is your baby, like you said, even if we all love it and may have adopted it, but it's your baby. Is there anything my questions didn't hit on about Humpy, about the salmon race, the creative team behind, anything about that my questions didn't hit on?
Yeah, I think it's just that it's validating that its fans have taken notice and decided to love it so much as we do, because like I said, it was, years of planning the race, of having the suits made, the characters developed, finally running them out there. Not sure what our fans were going to think the first time we did it in 2024. Mixed reviews initially, and then as time has gone on, it's become beloved. People have their favorite fish. Most of our fans love Humpy and continue to cheer for him time and time again, even though he had lost 165 straight races. And then when he finally wins one, hearing the crowd pop and reignite the ballpark that night, and eventually, leading to a win, it was really full circle for the salmon run. And this is really just the first chapter, we hope, for our 4 characters, and hopefully there's a whole lot more great moments in the future.
I just like hearing you say Humpy.
You know what? Like, I love the, like, hey, he's, the Mariners post on social media. You said he didn't focus enough. You said he didn't have enough talent, and Humpy won. What more could you want? And the rest, as they say, is history.
The rest, they say, is history. We're going to continue to watch the Mariners through the coming days and weeks ahead. In the meantime, we want to give a quick shout out to Beth Knox, the president and CEO of the Seattle Sports Commission. Big event coming up here in the following week involving women in sports. We had her on the show as well to talk about why that event is important for the SSC.
This is one of the Sports Commission's annual signature events. It is the Women in Leadership Breakfast where we bring together like over 800 people who are there to find professional development. And of course, we like to highlight the amazing women leaders that we have, not only in this region, but some of our partners like with Amy Shear, and are excited to bring all of these speakers to the group. Our theme is cultivating confidence, which who doesn't need that at any point? So it's going to be a great and fun event. Looking forward to it.
And it's been great now for several years, but this is one of kind of the tentpole events for the Seattle Sports Commission, right?
It is. It's one of our annual signature events, and so we hold it every year at the end of October. Of course, we don't always anticipate that we'll be in the middle of October baseball, but what an exciting time to have that happening also right around this event.
Beth, don't jinx anything. There you go, Beth Knox with the Seattle Sports Commission on what's been a jam-packed Inside the Arena, Niko.
That was a good show. You know what makes it even better, Chris?
As always,
when David Lee takes us out.
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.
Inside the Arena was presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sports book.